Now that I'm here, I kind of don't really know how to start. I guess from the beginning. I just finished filming the musicals Project Pan thing, which you'll see before you see this, so I can talk about it, but in my head, I then went into Sound of Musical. Let's start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. When you read, you begin with A, B, C. Anyway, hi guys and welcome back to my channel. This video has been kind of requested, like I offered to do it and then a couple of you said yes, you wanted to see it, so here I am laying everything out on the table for you. As I just said, I don't really know where to start, to be honest. I guess a little bit of background, maybe? It's not that it's hard to talk about, it's just like mapping it out in my head. Like chronologically makes the most sense, but then there's history and other things that you need to like know about. So first of all, I met Andrew at the end of 2010. We met through work and we'd kind of been friends for a very long time. We got together at the end of 2014, the beginning of 2015, but we broke up because I wasn't sure that the relationship was going anywhere in terms of like we didn't have enough in common and he was being a little bit over enthusiastic about the whole relationship, which made me feel uncomfortable because I was unsure if it was going anywhere, and it felt unfair on my part of like I need to be honest with him and just like he can't keep thinking that this is amazing and stuff. So I ended things with him and then we decided to still be friends. And at this point my relationship with his parents was actually a really good one, and I told his parents all the reasons of why I was breaking up with him and they seemed to be okay about it. Like they tried to talk to me about it, but the relationship didn't break down at all. So we continued being friends. I was still playing darts with them and I was going to the quiz with his parents, like without him, with his parents. So it was like we were still a kind of close-knit friendship family type thing. And then late 2015, okay, I got the dates wrong. So we first started going out at the end of 2015, beginning of 2016. We broke up at a sort of mid-spring-ish in 2016, and then we stayed friends for a while. And then late 2016, it was his birthday, and we went out for like a meal with his family and stuff, and I started to feel something again. So we were just kind of like flirting and talking, and nothing happened, but like I think we held hands at one point, and it was kind of nice. It was nice. So then I actually got the job that required me to move to Brighton, and Andrew offered to come with me. And I said, that's up to you. I don't think it's a good thing if we get back together, but you're still welcome to come. Like, we'll find somewhere with 2 bedrooms. Like, we'll be separate from one another. So we did that. He was happy to do that. We did some house hunting. We were sort of house hunting. I knew about the job kind of back in August, and we were sort of hunting for the flat kind of around and after his birthday. Like we had a viewing the day after his birthday. So we did that, and a couple of times his mum came down and we found the flat, and we looked at a couple of other places and we just still liked the flat, so we went back there for a second viewing, and we saw some more places and we still liked the flat, so we went back for a third viewing and still liked the flat over everything else. So we chose the flat and we paid our deposit and we secured the flat and we got a move-in date and everything else. So when it came to moving, we still like weren't together at this point. We still hadn't even like been out on a date or anything. And his dad actually helped us move. So his dad was there, his brother was there, and his mum was there, and my mum and dad were there. So his dad drives a van for work, so we used the van to move all the furniture and stuff, and they took us to the flat and we unpacked everything and we all had this nice family dinner and it was great. So we were living together for a while, and then we went to see Nickelback live, and while we were at Nickelback he kissed me, which I was a bit like, okay, but it wasn't like, okay, no, it was just like, oh, okay, And then after that, we were kind of like kissing, but then not kissing, and then kissing some more, and then nothing, and then there was a whole thing, and then this one day I was at work, and I was talking to one of my friends at work, and he was like, why don't you just like ask him out on a date? And I'm like, okay. So I asked Andrew out on a date, and he said yes, obviously, because I kind of knew at the time, but I also kind of like, I guess, wanted to pretend that that's not what was happening. But I kind of knew that he was hoping that we would get back together the whole time. So it wasn't like I was afraid of rejection or anything. But yeah, so we went on a date, and then after a little while of dating for a bit, for a few months, we told his parents and we told my parents that we were back together. And the reason we held back for so long was because we didn't want them to be like, oh, well, you're living together now, what if you break up? You're still going to be living together. And we didn't really want to have that conversation of, was it a good idea? We wanted to give it a bit of time before we told people. So that's what we did. And then we told people, and then things started getting a bit strange in terms of, I felt like, because he was still sleeping in the other room to kind of give us space while we were together and living together. I didn't want to get together in a new relationship with the person that I lived with, and then all of a sudden us never be apart kind of thing. We both needed our own space, so we agreed that he would still stay in the other room, and that would be our like time apart, even though we weren't really apart. You know when you and your boyfriend stay at your own houses for one night a week, for example, just to get that time away. That's basically what it was like we were still sleeping in separate beds to keep the separation, just for a bit, just to like build into the relationship so that we didn't completely dive in and screw it up. And so he kind of moved into the bedroom gradually, but on the nights that he was in his own room, I started getting feelings of like that things were going on. Not that he was inviting people back to the flat, but like there was something strange going on and that he was hiding something from me. And that was when the feeling started. And this is about 3 months into a relationship, the second time round. And then if you fast forward like 4 months, this feeling of like he's hiding something from me, I still had that feeling. And it wasn't like every single day, it was like every now and again I would have this feeling of like, he's hiding something from me. And we'd argue, like any other couple would argue, but he'd moved into the bedroom at this point, so it was like, how much can he actually be hiding? Like, he's right there in the bed next to me. So I kind of talked myself out of it, or talked myself into believing that it was my anxiety and my own mental health issues that was causing this. And he didn't disagree with that statement. And not only did he not disagree with that statement, he went along with it and he played on it. And I remember him making comments of like, oh, it's okay, I'm used to it by now, I know what you're like. Stuff like that. Just little digs like that. And like, not only was he hiding this thing from me, but also there was like lots of white lies. Of like, I asked him one time, did you buy chocolate at the shop? You know, as a laugh, I just walked through the door because I found like a receipt on the doormat outside the front door. So I picked it up and I opened the door, and as I walked through the door, I was like, hey, you went to the shop without me, or you bought chocolate without me. And he was like, no, I didn't. It was stuff like that. And I'd be like, why are you lying to me all the time? And he's like, I'm not. And then he'd like storm off and call me a bitch and like basically bitch about me to his brother and his friends and stuff. And all the time, he was the one lying. And he'd like be really cruel to me about like me confronting him when he was lying. And there were a couple of times where I cried and he apologized and I said, you can't keep lying to me. And he said that he wouldn't, and I was like, okay. And then this thing that I felt like he was hiding from me was kind of still in the picture. So even though he'd said that he wasn't ever going to lie to me, and I believed that, there was this thing that he was still hiding from me. But I thought, because that he told me that he'd never lie to me, that it was my head again. So I kind of spiraled, and there was an incident of, like, I was on the floor in the hallway in tears, like, scratching up and down my arms with my nails, trying to draw blood, and he came over and he just held me, and I said, maybe we need to get me some help, and he said, we don't need to get you any help because you have me. And at the time I was like, I really have a good guy here, that he's willing to, like, stay with me even though my head's doing all these crazy things. So we moved on from that, and things were okay for a while, and then it started happening again. I was getting this feeling of, like, he was hiding something from me, and the white lies started happening again. And it went on for a while, for a good year. Like, in June we got engaged, because that was when it, like, started feeling okay again. And then towards the end of the year, like from around late August, early September, was when it started again. And I got all this stuff for his birthday, and he said how lucky he was, and I was trying to encourage him. Maybe he was unhappy with his job, and trying to encourage him in terms of, like, what do you want to do with your life? I will support you if you want to, like, leave your job, and do you want to go back to school, that kind of thing. And he made a dig at my job, first of all, and then after that it just became more and more weird. And then around Christmas time everything was okay, but it was almost as if, like, the damage had already been done. Like, all the little white lies that he was telling had sort of put a weight on me, I guess. In the January, I went to see my brother and my dad for their birthday. Andrew was working, so he wasn't there. And me and my brother went out for lunch. And he was saying stuff about how he really enjoys his new relationship, or it's not new now, but it was then. Or, well, it wasn't new then either, it was just new to us. Like, we learned about it at sort of around October time. So it was kind of new to us in terms of them being together, but it wasn't new for them. They'd already been together like 6 months at that point. But my brother's a very private person when it comes to stuff, so it took him a while to speak to my parents once he decided that he was really serious about this girl. We were talking about that, and he was saying that she did really nice things for him for his birthday, and I was like, I'm glad that he was being looked after, and, like, he's surrounded by love now. Like, me and him, we fixed our relationship. We used to have a strained relationship, not so much that, you know, we couldn't have a conversation, but to the point where both of us doubted whether or not the other one would ever contact the other person once my parents passed away due to old age, kind of thing. So, like, when they were no longer with us, would we talk to each other? Both of us thought that. And one day we just sat down and started having a conversation about it, and he was like, that's how I feel, and I was like, no way, that's how I feel. And then since then it was just like, we didn't need to worry about anything else that had happened. Our relationship was fixed, and I wouldn't change that for anything. Like, I love my brother so much. So much. And I love his girlfriend too. She will be eventually my sister-in-law. So I love them both with all my heart. And because we had this kind of new bonding relationship type thing, he was saying about about his new girl, and we were, like, talking about the past and stuff that had happened in the past, and he was talking about one of my exes, and he was like, oh, I hope Andrew's nothing like that. And I just I must have, like, had this look on my face, because I didn't say anything, and he just went, what? And then I told him about the white lies and the feeling of something, that he was hiding something from me. And my brother just, like, looked at me square in the face, and he was like, Claire, if you don't trust this person, why are you marrying him? Like, even if it's just white lies, if there's no trust, there's no trust. Like, you can't have a relationship if there's no trust. And I was like, yeah, well, I kind of want to give him the benefit of the doubt. So later on that day, I actually had a conversation with Andrew, and I said, look, if you keep lying to me, I don't know if we can get married, because I can't marry somebody that I don't trust. And he said that I was right and that he would change and that he would stop lying to me, and he doesn't know why he was doing it in the first place, and it wasn't worth losing me over, that kind of thing. And then fast forward to about it was later than that. It was probably about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that. Andrew had obviously come home from work and I was on my laptop. I was just chatting to some friends. I used my laptop I had Steam open. Steam, if you don't know, is it's a game store. So you know how you have like the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store? Well, the Steam store is like, there's games there for your PC. So I had that open and I was talking to a friend through that, and I was talking to a friend through the iMessenger thing because I have a iMac, and I was just chatting to some friends, and that's why I had my laptop open. I think I had some YouTube open as well anyway. And then Steam threw up a message which said that Andrew had come online and that he was playing this like porn game. So I messaged him, not because he was playing a porn game, because whatever, but to find out like if he would tell me the truth about what he was doing. So I asked him what he was doing and he lied to me. So I kind of hit the roof. I went a bit mental. I was like, literally 4 hours ago you said that you didn't want to lose me, you were never going to lie to me again, and now you're lying to me. He's like, I'm not lying to you. And I'm like, Andrew, do you know how Steam works? Like, it gave me a notification that one of my friends was playing this game. And he was like, oh, well, I didn't know that you couldn't see that. And I'm like, so that's the reason you lied to me, was because you didn't know whether or not I could see it. So anyway, I was like, do you know what, I'm done, that's it, you can move back into the other room, I'm not dealing with this anymore. And then he called me like 6 times, I didn't answer. And then he messaged me and he was like, please pick up the phone, I'm really sorry. And I was like, no, you're not sorry. If you were sorry, you wouldn't have done it. Like, it's not about what you were doing, it's about the fact that you told me 4 hours ago you were never going to lie to me again. And now here you are lying to me. Like, I'm sorry, that's not how that works. Anyway, after the weekend, I went back to the flat. Andrew was staying in the other room, and he continued to stay in the other room. We were sort of talking, but not really, like, closely, and he was still sleeping in the other room. And then Erin came to stay. I was like, while Erin is here, I do not want her to feel uncomfortable or awkward or anything, so we're just going to pretend everything's fine. And he was like, fine. So he came and stayed in with me, and she had his room. Because that's how it was before, was like his room became a spare room when we were together. So he came in with me and she stayed in the other room. It was the first time she'd come. She came straight from Australia to my house because she stayed with me because she couldn't move into her flat yet. So she stayed with me for like a week or so because after that week she could go to her flat and all her bank and stuff would have been set up already because she spent the week with me and we did all that. So that's why she stayed with me. And the night, I think it was the night that she arrived, she landed and then went to bed super early because she just had a 24-hour flight and she'd just come from Australia. And me and Andrew were talking and I asked him about the lying and I was like, what is so important that you need to lie to me? I just don't understand why it is that you do it. And I can't remember how it came about. I think I said something along the lines of like, are you cheating on me? Is that what's happening? So you just like lying all the time because you're with somebody else? And he was like, no. And I was like, well then what is it? Because I don't understand. And then he told me that he'd been watching porn, but not so much like watching porn, but like going onto the porn websites and with the cam girls and like talking to the cam girls and watching the girls on camera and stuff, which in itself would have been fine had he not just spent the whole entire year telling me that nothing was going on, he wasn't hiding anything from me, and that it was all in my head. So that was what I was thinking at first, was like, all of those times I confronted you and you called me a bitch because I was angry at you for a lie that you didn't tell when all that stuff was happening. That was what was going on in my head. And then it kind of occurred to me, so I asked him the question about all those times where I'd come home and he'd been in the flat on his own because he'd had a day off of work. And then like he'd been like really touchy-feely, kind of like grabbing me as soon as I walked through the door, which is fine because when you're in a relationship and you give consent, it's fine. Because I thought I was giving consent for that. But it turns out that I was actually just a way for him to finish. And it wasn't just those times. There were times where he would like come into bed late, because I'd be like, oh, I'm going to bed, and he's like, oh, I'll be in a bit. And he'd come into bed, and then like he'd wake me up. And again, at the time, I thought, okay, this is fine. I don't mind. It's consensual. I give consent. Just let's go, kind of thing. But then now that I know that he was starting with these girls and talking to them and couldn't get off, and then he was coming into the bedroom and basically using my body as a way of finishing himself, that kind of made me feel like violated in a way. So I had all these things going around in my head of like him telling me that I was crazy and that it was all in my head and that he'd help me through it and all that stuff, where for the whole year he'd been like seeming like the perfect boyfriend or the perfect fiance and like trying to be there for me, when actually he was just trying to cover his own tracks. This was all like going on in my head. And then me and Erin went to London and I told her what he told me, and she told me that it's just porn at the end of the day, and I was like, yeah, that's fine, it's just porn. But if he'd had like included me in that, we could have watched the porn together. We could have enjoyed that experience together. I could have helped him finish if I'd have known that's what I was giving consent for. The way he went about it was like shady and made me feel kind of dirty, and like he can't be trusted. And not only that, but he lied to me for over a year. So it was longer than that, because I found out that he was doing it while we were together the time before. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I was a bit like, I can't even like look at you right now. Why would you do this? Why would you do this? I don't understand. And Erin left. She went to move in to her flat, which I still mourn to this day. Erin, come live with me. I miss you. So she moved into her flat, and it was just me and Andrew again, and he went straight back into the other bedroom. And then one day I was at work and I was talking to a colleague and I was explaining what was going on, and he was like, ask him if there's a reason, because there might be a reason that he's not comfortable talking to you about. Like, there might be something going on with him that you don't know about. So like, just sit down and have the conversation with him. Don't attack him. Like, say that you're going to help him. And I'm like, okay. So I messaged him and I asked him, I was like, hey, I realised that there might be a reason for all of this. Do you want to talk about it? And all this. And he was like, we'll talk about it later. And I'm like, okay, finally, we're getting somewhere. I'm going to get an explanation. And I get in the car, and like when I finish work, I get in the car because I asked him to come pick me up. And I was like, so have you thought about what you want to talk about? And he lied to me again. And bearing in mind, while Erin was here, I said to him, if you ever lie to me again, that's it, we're through. And then he lied to me while we're in the car. And he said that he thought that the reason he was doing it was because he didn't think that he was good enough. So I was like, that doesn't make any sense, because there's holes in these places. And because I was picking at the holes, it came to light that actually he just like made that up on the spot, and he didn't actually have a reason, and that he'd lied to me and made me feel like he had a reason so that I'd forgive him. And I'm like, okay, you said you'd never lie to me again, and now you just lied to me about having a reason when you didn't have a reason. And he was like, yeah, I'm sorry. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. I said you can't lie to me again, so I want you to go and stay with your parents. Just for the one night. Because I was breaking up with him, he was really upset. And I was so angry that I couldn't be the friend to comfort him. But I knew that he needed that. So I said to him, go and stay with your parents. They can look after you. You really need to be with somebody right now. So he was like, yeah, I agree. And he left. And I called my best friend and I told her what happened. And she said, because she knew everything that had happened up until this point, she was like, you made the right decision. He is an idiot. Like, he doesn't deserve you, that kind of thing. And then the next day I went to darts. And I was messaging Andrew through the day, and we agreed that I would go, because normally I would go to his parents and his parents would drive us to darts. And we agreed that that would be the same this time round. So I drove to his parents' house, and his dad completely blanked me. And I'm like, oh, here we go. But up until this point, me and his dad had a wonderful relationship. Like, a wonderful relationship. He treated me like I was his daughter. And now, all of a sudden, this thing has happened, and he can't even look at me in the face. And that hurt a lot. That hurt more than what Andrew really did. And his mum came in and we had the conversation, but his dad was like gone. He didn't want anything to do with me. And so me and his mum were talking, and his mum said that basically he might have a problem. And I said, well, that's fine, but if he's got a problem, then he needs help. And his mum said, well, why does he need to get help? You need to figure out why you don't like being lied to so much, why you have trust issues. And I'm like, hold on a minute. How come I'm the one getting the blame now? Because I haven't done anything wrong. I'm the one who's been lied to for a year. I'm the one who was called a bitch when I confronted him about his lies that wasn't happening. I'm the one who had to sit there and have my body violated so that he could get off. How all of a sudden am I the one that needs to go into therapy to figure out my trust issues? And like, it was all very strange. So I didn't like talk to them the whole time that I was at darts. And then I came home, and basically, as we were leaving darts, Andrew's mum said, you two need to sit down and have a conversation and talk through this. Now, if she'd have said, I know this is hard for you, Claire, and I know that he hurt you, but we will be here for you too, and we will help you through this, because we want to see you together and we want to see you get married, then I would have been fine. But the fact that now Andrew was lying to me, he was living in the other room, and neither of his parents were talking to me, and his mum blamed me, I was just like, there's no coming back from this. If I forgive him now, his parents are still going to hate me, the relationship's never going to be the same, and how are we supposed to get married in the summer when all this stuff is still bubbling under the surface? It's not going to work. So I then thought about, like, maybe we should just postpone the wedding. Yeah, in my head, I was like, how complicated would this be if we just postpone the wedding? And Andrew didn't talk to me, like his mum had said to. He, not only did he not talk to me, he ignored me for 2 weeks, basically. He just completely blanked me. He didn't say hi when he got out of bed, he didn't say bye when he was leaving for work, and he just didn't talk to me the entire 2 weeks. And not only that, but he also was like walking around like he owned the place. Because he'd been validated by his parents that I was the one in the wrong, he didn't then think that he'd done anything wrong. So he didn't need to tiptoe around me anymore. So I was the one in the wrong, and I was the arsehole in the relationship, and that I'm the one who should approach him. And that's how he was acting. So I was just like, do you know what? I'm done with this. Why am I wasting my time on somebody who clearly doesn't care? And yeah, so he wasn't going to change. He doesn't care. He didn't care enough to change. So I was just like, why am I wasting my time? I don't need to postpone the wedding. I just need to be done with it. So I basically just, in my head, I was like, it's done. I'm going to move all of my stuff into my room and all of his stuff into his room and not have any of this crossover anymore, because then I'm just done. Oh, in that 2 weeks, by the way, there was a thing of like, I'd gotten out of the shower, and he came into my room while I was like getting dressed from coming out of the shower, and didn't say anything. He just sat on the end of the bed, and I was just sat there like in a towel, like, the fuck are you doing? Get out of my room. I'm trying to get dressed. Like, you can clearly see this is inappropriate. Get out. But like, he just sat there on the end of the bed, and I'm like, is there a reason you're in here? And he left then, but he didn't say anything. It was super creepy and super weird. Anyway, while he was at work, I was like, right, now's the time to move the stuff over. So I got his stuff out of my wardrobe, and I went to his wardrobe, and I opened the wardrobe and basically was shuffling stuff around in the wardrobe to make room for his stuff. And as I was shuffling things around, taking my bits out, I found like some money in there, and not just like some money. I mean like a significant amount of money. There was like £500-600 in cash in the wardrobe, like hidden in the wardrobe. And I'm like, how long has this been here? How have I lived with this person that I don't even know that hides money in the wardrobe? I was livid but also confused. So I told my friend, and my friend said, do you know what you should do? And I'm like, well, I can't leave. And he was like, no, that's not what I mean. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, you should write a note and put it inside the place where he'd put the money. Something like, as if I would steal your money, you don't need to hide it, or something like that. And I kind of did it, but only because I was so angry that at this point I was like, do you know what? I feel like being petty just for 5 minutes. So I put the note inside the thing, and to this day, I don't even know if he found it because he never asked me about it, but hey ho. And yeah, I was fuming. I was like, what is this money for? Where did he get it from? And like, what's he been using it for, and various other things. And then my friend was saying about how expensive these chat room cam girl things are, and how he must have been paying for this service. And I'm like, but he's supposed to be saving for the wedding. So he was basically using the money that he was supposed to be saving for the wedding to do his thing. And I was just so done that I messaged I can't even remember if I messaged my parents straight away. I remember messaging my cousin first. And I told my cousin that the wedding was off and that it wasn't happening. And then I think I told my parents. And my parents at first were like, oh, are you sure? You and Andrew are so great together. Well, my mum was. My dad was totally on my side. My dad was like, Mum, if he's lying to her, he's going to continue lying to her even after they're married. She's going to live like this for the rest of her life. Do you want that for our child? But my mum was like, but he's so nice to her, and like he makes her so happy and stuff. And like, yeah, my mum was proper on his side, and it was really strenuous for our relationship for a little bit. But then after that had all happened, there was like a period of time where it was like 2 weeks or so where Andrew just like kind of started talking to me again, but not really anything significant. We were just like talking because you can't ignore somebody forever kind of thing if you're living with them. But things happened, like, oh, I came home one day and my wet washing was dumped on the floor instead of put up on the thing. Like, why not just put it up on the thing if you're going to take it out of the washing machine? But anyway, I had some really awkward things to deal with, and it was just very stressful. And my mum kept saying, why don't you two talk it through? Like, are you sure there's no hope for this relationship? We've paid for all this stuff for the wedding, which, to be fair, they paid half. Andrew's parents paid nothing, which my parents were kind of pissed about. But anyway, I paid half, I paid a quarter, Andrew paid a quarter, and my parents paid the remaining half. So we'd all spent a lot of money on stuff for the wedding. So I think my mum just wanted to, I don't know, push it out the door, I guess, like make it final kind of thing. I don't know what my mum was thinking. And then Andrew's parents went to Australia, as you know from one of my previous videos, and I get that text message from his brother. There's a bit in between where I messaged the letting agent, like finding out my options, do I have to still live with Andrew, that kind of thing. But obviously something had happened between my dad and my mum that the next time I saw my mum, she was a completely different person. She was like, oh, I'm sorry that he did that to you, glad you were out of there. And like, we talked about how we could get Andrew out of the flat. Could they afford to help me with the rent? But they couldn't, and I couldn't do it on my own. So, but yeah, she was a completely different person after. Then we kind of became okay again. But for a while I was really angry with her because how could you do that to your own daughter? Like, none of this was my fault. None of it. All I did was stand up for myself and say, no, I'm not gonna deal with your crap. I'm not gonna be treated like that. I asked my parents to tell everyone, basically, because I couldn't do it. Not for a second time. So my parents had that joy of telling everyone, and everyone was okay, to be honest. I didn't have one sniping comment, which I was expecting, because all through the time we were engaged, my aunt would call up and be like, have they broken up yet? Is the wedding still on? So it was... My family is amazing for the most part. There's one or two people who I don't necessarily get on with on a personal level, like I only tolerate them because my family kind of thing. And these comments were from like one of those people. So to be honest, I was expecting it from a lot more people, but for the most part, like my aunt messaged me, she was like, you know, you can talk to me whenever, if you want to come stay, if you want to get away, then you can do that. I mean, I even had my mum's family friend, who I've known since I was a child, but only because it's my mum's best friend. She messaged me. She was like, if you want to come to Dorset, you can come to Dorset and stay with us for a week. And like, if you ever need anything, and just everyone was so nice. And so I asked my aunt, I was like, why is everyone being so nice to me? And she was like, Claire, this is not your fault, and you're a nice person, and you deserve to be treated right. And then I was like, yes I do, yes I am. And from then on, I was fine. Like, I was just like, I became strong enough to not have to sit there and think about it or dwell on it anymore. It was just a thing that happened, and I was moving on with my life. So that's basically everything that happened. I will link my where have I been in the description box, because that goes through some details about like the moving and like what happened and like how I ended up here and stuff like that. So I will link that in the description box. But I appreciate you guys sitting here with me, going through this with me while I explained basically everything that happened. I hope that none of this has offended you. That wasn't my intention. What my intention was to get my story out there. And like, if there are people in similar situations and they have no idea what to do, or their in-laws or future in-laws are like bullying them or whatever, and they're just like too scared to cancel the wedding or whatever, then at least you know that there's somebody out there who's been through what you're currently going through. And I'm always available if anyone wants to chat. Like, I'm pretty open on Facebook. If you're part of the Fantastic Ladies, then you'll know who I am, so you can just find me through there. But like, yeah, so, or you could, if you don't know me on Facebook and you're not on Fantastic Ladies, you can DM me through Instagram if you want to chat about anything or ask any questions, or you can ask them in the description, and at some point I'll do like a follow-up if that's how you'd prefer to do that. But yeah, let me know. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your support, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.